Hey guys, real quick, check this out on YouTube. Check out the other videos I got going on YouTube channel. It's the easiest way to find it, I think, would be to type in Rogan and RuneScape podcast. I don't know why my voice just cracked right there. But yeah, Rogan and RuneScape podcast. I'll put some gameplay of RuneScape up while this is going. And we also got some pretty cool videos that are not on the iTunes app yet. So, or they won't be because they're videos. So go ahead and check that out. What's going on, all you cool cats and kittens? Welcome to Rogan RuneScape. This is a Rogan review of the Chris D'Elia. Does anyone know how to pronounce his last name? I know I don't. But this is a review of the Chris D'Elia episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, number 1458. I would like some help with these Rogan reviews, so if you guys are, Death Squad fans, Rogan fans, please email me at roganandrunescape@gmail.com, and we can do this together. Chris D'Elia, Chris D, let's just say that. Chris D was talking about this uncle that he has that's very, he always has some sort of depressing news to share with people, and he was talking about how they were at a family dinner, and his uncle was saying how this cat got its face eaten off by a bobcat, and then he proceeded to tell this story, which I found pretty interesting, about how this dog kept running away, scaling the fence and everything. So he decided to try to fix it by putting a leash on the dog. Well, the dog jumped over the fence and ended up hanging himself. So that's that's some really bad luck Brian shit right there. And that type of behavior of just kind of having that dark, something dark to share with people. I feel like that's kind of how my mom is, quite honestly, to me at least. So actually, a little bit beforehand, before this happened, Chris D was talking about how he used to drink a lot of soda, and now how he decides to drink soda water. Not soda water. He decides to drink carbonated water, and I think that's pretty cool, just because that's what I do. I used to, of course, just like most people, like soda, but then I realized, actually at a very young age, that soda is just not good for you. So I made a switch on that, and I gotta say, it's delicious. Now, the reason I brought this up is to shout out the best soda water, which is Spindrift. It's got real fruit in it, pieces of real fruit. They got different flavors too. So the lemonade version has 1.5 lemons in there, and they have a raspberry lime version. It has 52 raspberries or something like that, and a half of a lime. They got mango, so it's really a good alternative for sodas if you want something that is not just your average soda water. That your average soda water just has natural flavors. Well, this actually has real fruit in it. So Spindrift, Spindrift. I definitely recommend that. He asked Rogan how many times he had shit himself, and I've got to say, I think this has only happened to me, to my memory, at least, as an adult or as a high schooler. I think this only happened to me one time. I think I took too much Robitussin, and I woke up the next morning and I don't even think I noticed at first, but somehow I ended up noticing that I had shit my pants overnight. So I think I tried to fart in my sleep, and I guess something about the Robitussin had just made it to where I shit myself in my sleep, and then it dried up or whatever. But as an adult, no, I don't think I've ever shit my pants. And Chris D had almost shit his pants on the way to go see. So that doesn't even really count as shitting your pants, but he almost shit his pants on the way to go see Eminem, which I'm sure Eminem loved to hear about that. 3831. Rogan was talking about how sometimes you just got to take the L and learn to laugh at yourself, and that's super important for almost all aspects of life. You have a good sense of humor when you're able to laugh at yourself, and make fun of you and make light of yourself. Also, how are you gonna make fun of other people if the second someone makes fun of you, you act like a little crybaby? I guess that's just important to realize, you kind of to not take yourself so seriously, because then you'll have this huge egotistical approach of like, oh, I'm the best, and take it rough when people make fun of you. But if you're used to making fun of yourself, anything that someone says to you kind of can roll off of you, kind of like diarrhea in the pants of Chris D. That is pretty interesting to think about how these comics have been taken off or not been able to do, stand up for so long, so many weeks, and then they're going to go back. It would be kind of interesting to see some of these people's first shows, see how well they can retain their talent, while they're not performing in front of a live crowd. That's got to be very difficult. So at about 42 minutes and 25 seconds, roughly, Joe was talking about how, like these people that have sparks of being a comedian are people that are people that go to the Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. And I've got to say, man, he's kind of accurate about that. Not that necessarily they're, great comedians, but they have like that spark of what could make a great comedian, because it's like storytelling. From what I understand, you're not really supposed to go too in depth about like, all the, if you're in NA, like all the drugs you've done. You're not supposed to be glorifying like all the drugs you've done and stuff, but specifically AA, definitely people talk about they talk about like, what happens or what would happen when they would get really drunk and stuff like that. But they tell these same stories in different groups because there could be like 10 or 20 Alcoholics Anonymous or NA meetings in your city, so you can go to these different groups and stuff, and you get that practice of storytelling in front of a large crowd, and that's actually very valuable. And I'm glad he brought this up because that's something I've noticed, from visiting these things and just checking out what they're all about. Gotta say though, at least from what I've experienced, the NA meetings are a lot more interesting. A lot of younger people than the AA meetings are. Pretty cool little tidbit is Chris D was sharing how he was when he was a kid, he was watching Jerry Lewis do comedy, and he was playing with his toys at the same time, and he kind of just stopped playing with his toys and just stared at the TV or whatever, and asked his dad, like, "Dad, so is this his job? Like, he gets paid to do this?" And his dad was like, "Yeah, a lot of money actually." And his dad kind of romanticizes about this being the first time that Chris D realized he wanted to be a comedian, that's a pretty cool story. It's a pretty cool little thing. It's such a young age. He kind of made the connection. Kind of shows you what's possible. If you explore different avenues at a young age, like whether it be playing the drums or whether it be playing the keyboard or comedy or directing or drawing. If you explore things while you're young and you realize that you can actually do this when you're older and make it your job, then you might take it a little bit more serious. For 4 minutes and like 40 seconds, they're talking about like going for a drive, and I don't know if like things are different in LA than they are here. I know that here you can still like go driving and stuff. I don't know if they're more strict about it there, but Rogan said if you do get pulled over, and the police are like questioning you, be like, "Yeah, I was going to go get toilet paper," wink, wink, that's like so obviously what I thought about too. Like, if it does get to that point where you can only go out for essential things, like, yeah, why wouldn't you tell them that? And I mean, to be quite honest, I don't really go driving around anyways, unless it's to the grocery store or gas station, just because I'm using this quarantine time for some RuneScape, baby. Once again, with the bidet talk, Rogan is a fucking huge fan of bidets. And it's a very good point. This whole toilet paper crisis, if people had bidets, then they wouldn't really have to worry about as much toilet paper, because as he was saying, you only use like 2 squares or something like that to dry your asshole with. It's like, I think bidets probably should be a common practice in America, to have in houses, for one, to have a clean asshole, and 2, to not fucking use so much toilet paper. So apparently Trump has said something about how his coronavirus reports have higher ratings than the season finale of The Bachelor. And Rogan said this before, but the president is a comic. He is, whether you think he's a good or a bad comic, he's definitely some sort of a comedian. And it's a little bizarre. You know what I mean? It's a little bizarre. Personally, I think and know that if Hillary Clinton would have won in the previous election, that things would have been worse and America would have been sold down the river a lot more. Am I saying that Trump is some like altruistic great guy? That's not what I'm saying. I don't know him personally, but what I am saying is, I mean, Jesus Christ, just read the WikiLeaks documents, you know, that I read probably like 4 or 5 years ago or whatever. And, you know, look into the Clinton kill count, or look at the video of when she was like representing a rapist and she's laughing about getting him off, this guy that raped this like 13-year-old girl and stuff like that. It's dark stuff. She's not a good person, and there's more evidence towards the Clintons that they're shitty people than the other way around. So here Rogan was talking about how the Wuhan, or the coronavirus or whatever, COVID-19, may have originated from the fact that there's a bioweapons lab in Wuhan that is working with COVID on these bats and shit like that. And it had a 3 million pound, I think is what it said, 3 million pound grant from the US. And this whole time, man, you know, since the very beginning of hearing about this shit, you know, my first instinct is not like, you know, some of my friends or some of my family, which actually most of my friends and family, I would have to say, didn't think it was like some sort of natural thing. Only certain select people thought it was just this natural mutation. But I mean, you can really see through it, man. I mean, you can really see through the veil. So right there, you know, there was a fucking bioweapons lab in Wuhan that had a grant from the US that was looking into this shit. And it's so pretty obvious to me that this is not a natural evolution of the virus. There's some fuck shit going on. And like I said before, I don't think it's actually like a nationalist issue. I don't think it's like an American nationalist issue or a Chinese nationalist issue. I think if anything, it's actually a globalist issue. So people that don't have allegiance to their country, but have more so allegiance to globalism and the dollar. So Smallhead Brian joins the podcast, and they were bombing on him earlier for looking like the older, gayer version of Professor X. And you know, the hilarious thing is, before they even said anything, and I saw that picture, that is the first thing I thought about, was how he resembles whatever Ian McClellan or whatever the fuck the dude's name is, how he resembles this guy. So it's so funny that we were on the same like frequency, the same wavelength, you know, fucking came to that same conclusion that he looks like this dude. He must really look like the older, gay version of Professor Xavier. Smallhead Brian. So one of the last interesting things that I found was Christy was saying how he was talking about Pizzagate recently, and how people were like shitting on him or whatever, you know, do some research. And you know, it's an easy target for people that are not in the know to make fun of, just because of the name, for one, and because of the media's attempt to you know, make it to decredit it or whatever. But I remember finding out about this back around the time that the WikiLeaks cables came out from the DNC, which I think it was proven that the leaks were not an external hack, but it was like an internal hack. So someone from inside the DNC basically, you know, uploaded. Oh wow, I can use the fucking dwarf cannon in here the whole time. Oh my god, I'm doing this wrong. But anyways, yeah, there's a lot of interesting things to it. I'm gonna do a separate podcast on that probably, because I mean, this is back years and years ago that I was, you know, looking into this stuff before it ever really broke mainstream news. Man, was it David Seaman? Something Seaman. He's been on the Rogan podcast before. He had a lot of videos about it, you know, 3 or 4 years back. And there's a lot of just weird things associated with it. You know, the pictures that were posted from, was it Besta Pizza or Comet Ping Pong? Yeah, I think it was Comet Ping Pong. The fact that their logo was like a triangle inside of a triangle, which is the FBI recognized symbol for man boy love. actually, one crazy thing is one time I was in DC. I was doing some work up, close to DC. It was Northern Virginia. I can't remember if it was like Fairfax or Alexandria or something. But anyways, no shit. I went into this bathroom. We were doing electrical work in the parking lot, fixing the lights or whatever. But no shit. I went to the bathroom to take a shit, and I looked on the wall, and there was literally the symbol, the man, boy, love symbol, the triangle inside of a triangle, which is the symbol for pedophiles that like little boys. So that was fucking insane. I remember taking a picture of it at the time because I just couldn't believe, after researching all this stuff, that sure enough, right up there in DC, there was this fucking symbol carved in, on a bathroom stall. I just was like, holy shit. It blew my mind. But yeah, there's a lot of weird things to it, man. They're talking about like in code, how there's like 12 and 11 pizza or something like that, pizza and pasta, that if you didn't get to it quick because they're about to expire. They're talking about pizza and hot tubs. And so of course a lot of people made a correlation between, I think it was pizza that represented girl children and hot dogs that represented boy children. Oh yeah, because that's what it was. They were talking about hot dogs too. Like I said, my thoughts aren't very organized right now to give you the best information. If David Seaman's videos are still up, which I doubt they are, on YouTube about this shit, I would recommend looking into that. James Alefantis, I think the guy that owned Comet Ping Pong Pizza or whatever, there's just a lot of weird pictures on his Instagram, a lot of like kids. I think Alefantis in French is some sort of translation to like child lover or something like that. I'm not sure. But one of the weird things too was that the guy that went into DC and to Comet Ping Pong Pizza and demanded that the children be released and then shot. The news tried to say that he shot up the place. He didn't shoot anyone. The only thing that he shot was, in fact, a computer server. A little bit odd about that. Why would he shoot the computer? This guy also had an IMDb. He was an actor. So was he a crisis actor? There's just a lot of fucking weird things to it. And then, of course, that exposed, John Podesta and the weird artwork that he has in his house. And Rogan has brought that up, I'm pretty sure Rogan brought that up, saying how this guy really does have some weird artwork in his house. He has a statue that's a person posed, like, leaning backwards in this really impossible position that is the same position that a serial killer, God, I'm trying to think of the guy's name, but the serial killer used to pose his victims in weird positions. I'll do a separate episode on this shit because I did a terrible job explaining it right now, but there were so many weird correlations and connections. And then of course that's when I found out about the Lolita Express. Jeffrey Epstein was through these WikiLeaks cables back 4 years ago or something like that. So there definitely is some weird stuff going on, and there definitely is a ring of pedophiles in high up positions. So you really shouldn't shit on people that are looking into this stuff, because ultimately I don't think people would be looking into this stuff if they wanted it to continue. They would be looking into stuff to try to like stop it and just spread the truth. So I mean, it's easy to make fun of someone, but it's like, you really got to question yourself. Who's in the morally better standing position? The person who's researching the stuff and trying to find the truth, or the person that's shitting on the person for trying to find the truth? I would say the person that is shitting on people for trying to find the truth and making fun of them is morally inept. Is that the right word? But definitely lesser than the person that's looking into it. That was pretty much at the end of the podcast, 2 hours and 30 minutes. A lot of this podcast, they were kind of talking about just jokes and stuff. So I didn't want to quote verbatim the jokes they're talking about, because, with these Rogan reviews, I try to focus more on like interesting facts or interesting statements that they say that aren't jokes. Because obviously you can watch the podcast for the jokes. But the facts, I find, is what I'd rather share. But this was kind of a short one. I was playing RuneScape at the same time. a little bit hectic, but once again, I'm looking for some help. And if you haven't already looked at this, I think I'm going to put some video to this of me playing RuneScape. So check out our YouTube channel. It's Rogan and RuneScape. I think you can find it most easily if you type in Rogan and RuneScape podcast, and it should come up there. But yeah, message me if you guys want to help me with these Rogan reviews. My email is roganandrunescape@gmail.com. Appreciate it. Peace.